Blessings, everyone. Welcome to Congregation Rehoboth. Our Parasha, VAYETZEI, Parasha VAYETZEI. We are excited to host this opportunity to share the word of Yah with everyone. And we're looking to share new and fresh ideas about the scriptures, opportunities to grow, to learn, to increase your faith. And we are excited. I'm excited that you guys have joined us tonight. And so we're looking forward to a night of interesting discussion, interesting comments, biblical comments that really deal with three areas of the text of the Bible. And so we're going to be dealing with the Torah, the Tanakh, say the Tanakh, and then the Parasha. All right. And so I'm looking forward to hearing from each and every one of you on this Parasha, Erev Shabbat, Parasha VAYETZEI, which means, and he went out. He went out. And so in this Torah portion, we're going to be looking at Jacob, who has a dream in which angels, this is interesting, guys. Angels, they come up and down on a ladder, connecting here. This is very powerful too. Connecting heaven to earth. This ladder connected heaven to earth. Now, think about this. This is super interesting. What other event did we read about in the Torah where heaven and earth were being compared? Is there a similar event that happened earlier on in our Torah reading where there was a similar event where heaven and earth were almost being connected? Can anyone think of that event? Can anyone think of that event? Hello, can you guys hear me? Hello. Hello, anyone out there? Can anyone think of another or a similar event, not the exact same event, but a similar event which is similar to Jacob? He has a dream in which angels are ascending, the text says, and descending, which is connecting heaven to earth and earth to the heavenlies. Can anyone think of a similar event that happened earlier in the text, in the Torah? Can you guys hear me? Hello, can anyone hear me? Okay. Well, I do want to get started then. Maybe we'll come back to that question a little bit later. And so let's start. I want to make a couple of connections. I shared Tuesday, and I think this is going to give us a little bit more insight. So let's go to Genesis chapter 2. I'm going to show you Genesis chapter 2 and verse 16, because there's an interesting thing I want to show you here. And I told you I was going to connect this to our parasha. It's going to give us a little bit more insight on what we talked about on Tuesday night. And so Genesis chapter 2, verse 16. And I do want to share this with you. All right. The Genesis chapter 2 and verse 16, and I want to share this with you guys tonight so that you can see and get a little bit more insight on this idea that I shared on Tuesday. And so remember on Tuesday, guys, I was talking about how Adam had religious authority. And we got to this part in my lesson that I'm sharing right now. And we talked about how Adam, not only did he have relational authority and religious authority, which showed itself through Adam being a priest. And then Tuesday, we showed that the Lord commissioned him as a prophet. And so I want you to look at this word right here. And number one, commanded. Okay. I want you to look at this word. It's very interesting. Look at these Hebrew letters here. Get them in your mind. All right. You guys see them? You guys see these letters? Okay. That's in Genesis chapter 2. And I will show you here in verse 16. I'm going to show you these words right here. It's right here. Okay. Same word right here. Do you guys see that there? Okay. Now, I'm going to show you a connection that's very deep, and it's going to give us insight. Because remember, we said that this word, the Lord gave Adam a charge. It was a divine act. He commissioned him. He was Yah's messenger to direct. Now, here's the key. We said that the Lord gave Adam this role as the prophet so that he could direct Yah's marriage. You guys remember we said that? All right, keep that in mind. And as we go to Genesis 28, I'll show you something interesting. Okay, and I know this is not part of the parasha because we start in verse 10, but it's worth seeing anyways. And so if we go to verse 8 here, okay, I'm going to show you a similar word here. You see that word there? It's very similar, and I'm going to copy this to show you how similar it is. Okay. Okay, so here's our word that we used initially in Genesis 2. You have the yod. You guys see that? Okay, you have these letters here. Then you see the same letters, the yod here, and this same letter. This is called a cognate. It's called a cognate. And it's very interesting to see because it's also from, let's see if I can do this right here. Are you guys with me? Are you guys seeing this? Do you see what I see? All right, and so I'm going to say C. Hold on, if I can get this to work. I'm doing this on the fly, so C. Genesis 28, verse 1. And I'm going to get into this concept that the Lord so graciously showed me. Okay. So remember, we said that the Lord gave Adam this charge to direct his family. Now, notice what happens here in Genesis chapter 28. It says here in the text, and Isaac called Jacob and blessed him. And here it is right here. And charged him. He charged him. Same word, same Hebrew word. Okay, I'm going to show you in tools. It's the same Hebrew word here. And it's going to give us a little bit more insight to validate everything I said on Tuesday. Sava. Okay, it's the same word. Now I'm going to show you it's the same word when I go down here, guys. Look at this, Genesis 2:16. You guys see that? Okay, same exact word, Sava. In Genesis 2:16, the Lord charged Adam. Remember we said that was a divine act? And also in Genesis 28, we can see the same. Isaac was charging his son. What did he say to his son? He said unto him, thou shalt not. Sounds like a commandment from Yah, right? Thou shalt not take. And it's also a negative command. Interesting. Thou shalt not take a wife of the daughters of Canaan. Isaac was in a position as the father to direct not his marriage, but the marriage of his son. Do you guys see that? Isaac, being the head, being the father, the role of prophet and priest in his family, he spoke the words that Yah wanted him to speak in order not to be in control, not to, be dominant over his family, or not to let them have any opinion, but to direct the marriage of Jacob. Isn't that interesting? I thought that was very interesting. And I promised you on Tuesday that I would show you this connection. And here it is. We can clearly see that Isaac had this ability that was Yah given to direct his family, especially Jacob, when it came to who he would marry. And we can see he says this in verse 2 that he arose and he went to Padan Aram, to the house of Bethuel, thy mother's father. All right. So it was his grandfather. He went to his grandfather's house. And then it says he took thee a wife. Listening to Isaac direct the marriage that Jacob was going to get into by saying, don't take a woman from Canaan. All right. And he went there, he took a wife, and Pan Aram, from thence the daughters of Laban. And so it was one of his cousins. Okay, because Laban was his mother's brother. All right. And so Laban and his mother, their father was Bethuel, and Isaac, the father, the man, the priest, the prophet, directed his son's marriage. And I think Brother Mark shared some things like that as well, that in scripture we see that the father is the final authority when it comes to directing his marriage and the marriage of his sons or daughters. Not because the father is smart, not because the father is better, but simply because that is the position that the Lord has given to men in the family, the biblical model. All right. I thought that was interesting, guys. And so I'm going to turn it over to you. That was my one aha moment that I saw in Genesis chapter 28. And and also the ladder. The ladder, no one answered that one, but remember the Tower of Babel? The Tower of Babel is a huge connection to this ladder. They call it Jacob's ladder, but there are differences. The difference is in one, the Jacob's ladder, the ladder came from heaven down to the earth, in turn giving Yah glory, showing that it was something that Yah did. The Tower of Babel, the text says that they built a tower from the earth to the heavens. And if they would have made that tower and built it and it would have been successful, Yah would not have gotten the glory. The glory would have went to man and not Yah. That's why the Lord came down and said, I'm going to confuse their languages. And I thought that was a very interesting comparison from this parasha. So those are two things that I saw. I'm going to turn it over to you guys to see what you found in the text, either Brit Hadashah or the Haftarah or the Torah. Blessings. All right. So at this time, anyone can share their thoughts, their ideas, their questions, their discoveries. What say you?
Hello.
Blessings.
Hello?
Blessings.
Yeah, I don't hear nobody else. I keep hitting 06. Oh, well, let me see if I can explain this. That was, okay, so Rachel and her sister Leah, and the guy's name was Jacob, right?
Yep.
The both of them. Okay, why is he allowed, okay, so he married the older sister first, then he married her. But then he had children by both children. And also he had children by they maid wife or whatever it's called. How come he just go ahead and just have babies by anybody and everybody? He opened his mouth.
Sister, hey. Sister Elaine, go ahead. I was thinking the same, sister. I was thinking the same thing. Oh man.
How come he can't say anything and say, but he want to hear about the midwife? He just go to him, baby. Okay, I can't have child, so hear about the midwife here. He can open his mouth and say he don't want to hear the kid about the people.
But the women, Sister Elaine, the women said, hey, go on and do it. They said, go and do it.
Yeah, they do it because they can't. She can't have kids because she barren. What the word called?
Barren.
Barren, yeah. She's barren, so she wanted him. She wanted to see like she can have a child and still be her child, but he can still say no to it. I mean, how come he just saying anybody on both sides, both sisters, he having kids by the midwife, them, and everybody else? He's like that's he ordered them off saying, no, I don't have to have all these kids or something. Why you just gonna have 1 billion of kids?
Well, you know, maybe he would have made his wife unhappy. And you know, people say, happy wife, happy life.
Well, this is kind of ridiculous for me, yeah.
It's different too. I know you wouldn't have, look, I know you wouldn't have told your husband if you couldn't have a kid. I know you wouldn't have told your husband, well, here, have one of my friends. They can have a kid for me.
Yeah.
It does seem kind of strange that the women, Leah and Rachel, they both said, go into my handmaid. Now I'm trying to find that in the text. Let's see. I think it's in 29. Rebecca's son and Laban's sister. Okay, so Laban. So let's see. All right, here we go. I think it's in 29 here. Yeah. And Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the elder was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. Leah was tender-eyed, but Rachel was beautiful and well-favored. And Jacob loved Rachel and said, I will serve 7 years for her. Woo!
Genesis 29?
Yep, 29 and verse 18. Genesis 29 and verse 18.
Okay.
And in verse 18, guys, it says, are you there yet, Sister Elaine?
Yeah, I'm there.
Okay, then it says in verse 18, and Jacob loved Rachel and said, I will serve 7 years for her to marry me. Okay. And then Laban said in verse 19, it is better that I give her to thee than I should give her to another man. Abide with me, stay here and work these 7 years. And Jacob served 7 years for Rachel. And they seemed, watch this, and they seemed unto him, those 7 years seemed unto him, but just a few days, because he wanted him some Rachel. He says, and it tells you, for the love he had to her, it made that time go quick. And watch what he says. And Jacob said unto Laban, give me my wife now. If 7 years is up, for my days are fulfilled, that I may go into her. That's interesting. He wanted to go in immediately, he said. And then it says, and Laban gathered together all the men of the place, and he made a feast. And it came to pass in the evening that he took Leah, his daughter, and brought her to him. So instead of taking Rachel, look at the treachery of Laban. Instead of bringing Rachel, he brought Leah, his daughter, the oldest daughter, to him, and he went into her, and Isaac went into her. So that was the first thing. He wanted one woman, Rachel, but then Laban's treachery and trickery, he gave him the other sister, Leah. And then in verse 24, and Laban gave unto his daughter, Leah, Zilpah. So, and Laban gave unto his daughter Leah, he gave her a handmaid or a servant to help her, and her name was Zilpah. But then, watch this, verse 25. And it came to pass that in the morning, behold, it was Leah. Oh my goodness. And he said to Laban, what is this that thou hast done to me? Did not I serve with thee for Rachel? But you did a switcheroo, and you gave me Leah instead. You beguiled me. He said he tricked me. Now remember, this is a very interesting passage also, Sister Elaine, because see, it says here beguiled. Now remember that Jacob was also a beguiler. He tricked Esau out of his what?
His So his gifts, blessings, or something he's supposed to get from his dad.
Right, the birthright. Yep,
The
exactly.
birthright, yeah, the birthright.
Exactly. He
Birthright.
beguiled Esau out of the birthright. But look at this, guys. See, what you plant, the seed you plant is always going to come back to you. All right. And so this is the same thing that happened to Jacob here. The seed of beguilement and trickery and treachery, beguiling Esau out of his birthright. That same beguilement or trickery came back to Jacob. He says, "What thou hast done for me? Why have you beguiled me?" And it says this, and Laban said, "It must not be so done in our country." He says, "We don't do that here, where you marry the younger before the firstborn." Mm-mm. And then it says this, "Fulfill her week." That's interesting how they put that, fulfill her week, because it really meant 7 years. "And we will give thee this also for the service which thou serve."
Yeah, but how come he can't just tell him up front? Yeah, how come he said he wanted
Right.
Rachel, but he gonna give him his other daughter? Won't you just be up front with the man and say we got to you have to do the oldest child first? How come he can't be honest and say just do the oldest child and then you can get the younger child? Why he let him go through all that? Why he let him go through all that stuff?
Because Jacob, he didn't want Leah. He didn't want the oldest one. He wanted.
How come the man can't be honest though with Jacob? How come he got to be lying going on? He cannot. How come he can't just tell him that up front?
She talking about Laban.
Yeah, talking about Laban. That's what Sister Elaine's talking about. Laban. Why is he lying? And why did he give her? Why didn't he just give her Rachel up front?
Yeah, tell him the truth up front.
No, tell him the truth up front. She said why he didn't just say you need to have Leah first. Why did he trick him?
Mm-hmm. That's a good question, Sister Elaine. Why did Laban do that? How come he just didn't say, you can't have Rachel first? You got to either take Leah, because Jacob wanted he wanted that work. He wanted that labor and that free work from Jacob.
Yeah, he wanted to put it honest, but to be like that, though.
Oh, yeah.
The free work.
But he got 14 years of free work out of Jacob. And that's kind of a comparison, though. We can see that there are people who are very treacherous, where they will force or trick people into working for free. And so we see that happening in our own history. We see it happening in biblical history. But look at what happened. And Jacob did so. He fulfilled her week. And he got Rachel. He got her too. And then in verse 29, Laban gave Rachel his daughter, Bilhah. So watch this. Jacob has 2 women now. He has Leah, the older sister, and he has Rachel, the younger sister. And each sister had a servant. One sister had Bilhah, and the other sister had, I believe, Zilpah. All right, Bilhah and Zilpah. And then in verse 30, and he went in also unto Rachel. And he loved also Rachel more than he loved Leah. And he served with him 7 more years. And then we get into what Sister Elaine was talking about, where Leah was barren because the Lord didn't open her womb. But Rachel, wait.
That's the opposite. Rachel was barren and Leah.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So, And so Leah was hated because her womb was open. She was able to have children, but Rachel was barren. And so Leah conceived and gave him a son called Reuben. This is interesting to follow the family tree of the sons of Jacob.
But I know her womb was barren too. She opened her womb. Her womb was barren at first too.
Who is that? Wait, say that again, sister.
He said, when the Lord saw that Leah was hated, he opened her womb. Is it the same thing as being barren?
Well, no, that's the opposite of being barren. When he opened her womb, meaning she was able to have children.
Oh, yeah, but I'm saying he opened it. It must have been closed. He had to open it. What I'm saying. I know he opened it, but it must have been barren at first. I'm saying.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
You know, that's an interesting point. Interesting way of looking at that too. That was she also barren?
I didn't know it was closed. He opened it.
Well, you know what? Let me say this: that you know the Lord is in control of whether or not a woman has children or not. And even Jacob says it down here. Watch this. Watch what Jacob says. Where does he say that at? Oh, right here. And she conceived again and bare a son and said, because the Lord hath heard that I was hated, he hath then given me a son. And she called his name Simeon. So she had two. She had Reuben and she had Simeon. And then it says, and she conceived again and bore a son and said, now this time will my husband be joined unto me. Because remember, she was having all these kids by Jacob, but he really didn't love her like he loved Leah. And so she's hoping that since I'm giving him this kid, maybe I can trap him into loving me. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Doesn't that sound familiar? That you have a young man who is on the rise, who may have an opportunity to be successful, and women see this, some women, and they will try to get pregnant by him to trap him into staying with that woman because they see the success, his potential and future success. And look at what she says. She says, and she conceived again and bare a son and said, look, this is her thinking. Watch this. Now, this time will my husband be joined to me. And the reason why is now, in other words, be joined. He's saying now he's going to love me more than Rachel. And why? Because I have given him 3 sons and Rachel didn't give him any. Do you guys see that? That this woman thought that because she was giving him children, that he would love her. I don't know. Do women think like that today? I would think so. I would think so because many women don't just have sex and bear children with men that they don't love. There has to be some kind of connection, some kind of love connection for most women, some kind of emotional love connection for a woman to have a baby by a man. And I said most women, not all, but most. How, do you guys find that to be true in your experience? Not your personal experience, but just your experience with, maybe friends or family members, that when a woman has a child with a man, there's an expectation that he's going to be there. He's going to love them more than they love anyone else. Does that happen often?
People have kids, they think it's accepted men by having a kid by, but then down the line, the man just leave the leader because he just has two love, really love the person. That they say they can hold on to him by having a child by him. That's how people's mind works.
Yep. And here's another.
I got him now. I'm having this baby. So I got him now. I'm having this baby. He don't want to do with me now.
There you go.
A lot of people I know that did that. They still went with because they had the child by me. They still, went on and his own way and, met somebody else.
Right.
They kept him, yeah.
Oh yeah, you're absolutely right, sister. And here's another scenario as well. Let's say a man already has children, but the woman doesn't have any children, but she gets married to him. And many women will treat those children nice, that that husband has. They'll treat him nice before, watch this, they'll treat him nice. They'll treat those children, they'll buy them, they'll spend time, they'll do all these things with them until they have their own child by that man. And then the love that they have for those children that the man brought to that marriage or relationship, the patience she had, the love, the concern, the care, sometimes all goes down the drain. And that man is left there beguiled because he thought that that woman really loved his children. Men, let me say this. You got to make sure that your children are going to be loved by that woman after you give them a baby. Can a man really ensure that? Can he really make sure that that happens? That happens a lot, more than you probably think about. That the woman, this new woman who marries this man with a kid or in a relationship with a man with that has kids, the moment he has kids with her, the way that she treats those other kids now is just shameful. Like she don't even know him, almost like she hates those kids now. And she can use those kids to be bitter with one another, to sow discord amongst those kids. Are y'all hearing what I'm saying?
Yeah, but not in every case, though. Some people may do that, but not all people, though.
Right. It happens a lot. It happens more often than we may think. I've seen it happen. And it's shameful. And look at what Rachel says. And when Rachel in verse 1 in chapter 30, and when Rachel saw that Leah bare Jacob, or that she didn't bear Jacob any children, Rachel envied her sister and said unto Jacob, give me children, man, or I'm going to die. And then Jacob says, I like this. Jacob said, Jacob's anger was kindled. See, a lot of people think you're not supposed to get angry. You're supposed to get angry. It's okay to get angry, but sin not. See, people think that when you're angry, that your relationship with Yah is somehow in jeopardy. Please miss me with that. What are you smoking? It is okay to be angry at situations as long as you don't sin. See, that's the key. All right. And so the next time someone gets angry and they don't sin, don't cast them down and say, oh, you're not showing humility. Oh, you're not showing love. Excuse me, where have I sinned? Point out my sin, then talk to me. But people are so super spiritual that they think you're not supposed to get angry. That's not biblical. That's not Bible. Bible says that you can be angry and sin not. There are some things, guys, that are going to make us angry, but we can't sin in our anger. And so watch what Jacob says in anger. Was Jacob being unloving when he said this? Was he not being humble when he said this? He said, am I God? He says, am I in God's stead who hath withheld? See, he says, God has withheld thee. He's withheld a baby from you. He says, who hath withheld from thee the fruit of the womb. God has did that. And she said, behold, my handmaid Bilhah. And this is getting to what Sister Elaine is bringing up. He said, go, look, she's the one. Rachel said, hey, and look, she did the same thing Sarah did. She says, take Bilhah, go into her, go in so she can have a baby for me. It says that I may also have children by her. And then it says, and she gave Bilhah, her handmaid, to wife. And Jacob went in. Now, should Jacob have said, "No, baby, I love you. I love you more than Leah, and it's you I love"? Ooh. What do you guys think of that? Was Jacob wrong for going into Bilhah? He was being obedient to his wife. Was he wrong though?
Yes, no, he also to go in. It was her idea, so to go into it. But he breaking vows by going in with somebody in there too. Yeah, I thought you break vows. And he breaking his vows.
Was he? That's a good question.
He married. Then he sleeping around with somebody else.
There you go. Now, a lot of men, Sissy Elaine, a lot of men will use this to say, see, the husband can do this. It's okay for the husband to do that. Why are you getting mad?
No, it ain't okay for the husband. The husband shouldn't do it and the wife shouldn't do it. They both are disobeying God's law now.
See?
They haven't, they've been, what you call it? They married and you having sex.
Adultery.
What's the word I'm trying to say? Adultery, yeah. Adultery.
Mm-hmm. So let's ask everybody. Those of you who are tuning in.
I said married. If we talking about me on my line.
Sissy Elaine is saying that this was adultery. This wasn't right. They breaking the vows. What say you? Was this adultery? Even though the wife gave the handmaid to Jacob? Was it adultery? Were they sinning right here? What say you?
I say so.
I mean, I say yes, but there's so many people in the Bible early on who had concubines, and it's not even really that they had concubines. They were populating the earth. You know what I'm saying? So how else would the 12 tribes of Israel come about had he not had those 12 children by these 12 people? I mean, not 12 people, but by these different women. And it take 9 months for a baby to incubate in us. So in order to populate at that time, I feel like it was more acceptable, but like the adultery, all those laws didn't come later until Israel, Jacob had all those children to become the tribes. So, all these camps and all these people and everything that's going to be in Numbers later, they all came from Jacob and these 12 children. So, I mean, it served a purpose to an end, because adultery, I don't know if it's been spoken of as of yet, but all of those laws are going to come up later. So I feel like right now, the flood didn't happen. You know what I'm saying? They trying to repopulate.
Well, remember when Abraham did the same? Remember, Abraham went to Egypt and he gave Sarah and said it was his sister.
He is his sister, though. It was his half sister. He didn't lie. He withheld information. Yes, I know that there is a difference, right? But he's a half sister. He wanted to live.
He did.
We're not saying it's right, but it's a story for a purpose. There were some things that were not done correctly. People, and he wasn't the only one that did that. I think Isaac did it too.
Mm-hmm.
But once again, had he not said that, and he did get killed because he let them know that was his wife, then there would be no Bible and we wouldn't be sitting here talking about it, right? Because he had to, hey, this is God's plan. Y'all asked the man upstairs why he allowed it to be.
Now you're bringing up an interesting point. Did Jacob have to do that to bring glory to God? Was that the perfect will? Because we know that Yah can work through any situation. And is this, so the question is, when Jacob did it, when Abraham did it, when Isaac did it, was that the perfect will? Was that the way that it was designed? Now, we know that it happened, but was that the way the Lord intended it to be?
Absolutely not. But he knew our heart ever since the fall in the garden.
All right. All right. So was Jacob sinning when he went into Bilhah? Oh, man.
The answer would be yes.
All right. And notice Rachel stayed with him too. She stayed with that man. Rachel stayed with him. And then we read that Leah stayed with him as well. Leah was the first one. Let's look in verse 9. It says, when Leah saw that she had left bearing, she took Zilpah, her maid, what Sister Elaine is talking about, and gave her to Jacob too. Jacob was just, man, he was all over the place. Man. Oh my goodness. He had 4. There was Rachel, Leah, Zilpah, and Bilhah. And they was all cool with it. It was all good. And so what would we call that today when a man has multiple wives, having children with multiple wives?
Polygamy.
Poly love. Hey, poly love in the house tonight. Oh my goodness. You know, we have, even in our society today, women who embrace these actions that are being done. Why fight with another woman? Why get your blood pressure up? Why argue? Why forfeit peace? Hey, we could all get along and love one another. Let's just keep it all together, like Jacob, Rachel, Leah, Bilhah, and Zilpah. But we know that the Bible does not teach. The Bible is not teaching that this is okay. The Bible this is descriptive, not prescriptive. Do you guys get that? It's descriptive, not prescriptive. It's describing what happened, but it's not prescribing what should happen. Do you guys get that difference? All right. Anyone else? Excellent insight, Sister Elaine. Anyone else? Anyone else have any questions or thoughts that just jumped out at you during this parasha?
His will was he put together. That's them doing that other stuff. That's her idea of trying to make things right. Rachel, go with my handmaid to see with my husband. That's her. That's not the Lord's doing. That's her doing. That's what
Right.
she wants.
Exactly.
That's her will. That's what she wants. It's not the Lord's will. It's her will. It's
Exactly.
but it's not the Lord will. You know.
See, that's an excellent point, sister. Because Leah and Rachel were the ones that came up with this idea. Because look at verse 9. It says, when Leah saw that she had left bearing, she took Zilpah her maid and gave it. That's something that she decided to do. She didn't pray. She didn't seek the Lord. She didn't do any of that stuff. All she did was she saw that she couldn't have children. And so she's in competition with Rachel. You know, it's an interesting thing, a dynamic that I've noticed. Maybe you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. This competition with women. Have you guys noticed that? There's competition with men and women. Men compete with each other, but here's the difference I observed. Maybe you guys can correct me. Women, they use friendships to compete. Men, we use competition to create friendships. Women, many women, they use friendships to compete with each other. In other words, they'll befriend you to compete with you. Men do things opposite. These are just my observations. Correct me if I'm wrong. We'll use competition to be friends with another brother. What do you guys think about that analysis? Is it off? Is it something you've experienced? Have you seen it happen? I've seen it a whole lot. And it starts with Leah right here. Says that when she saw she couldn't have children no more, she said, come here, Zilpah. Rachel ain't gonna have more children than me. Come here. Go into Jacob again. All right. Anyone else? Anyone else would like to share their thoughts, their ideas, questions, comments? What say you?
Did anybody make any connections from the Parasha back to the Parasha earlier?
No, no one made any of those connections.
Oh, okay. I was trying to think. I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, I know there's some connection, but nothing stood out. I think I needed to read it a couple more times.
All right. Anyone else? Anyone else? All right. Well, blessings, everyone. We're going to close down for tonight. And I do encourage you to continue to study, continue to study to show yourself approved. These are exciting verses that we won't see again until next cycle. And so hopefully next year, next time, we'll see some different things in this text, because we've grown, we've dug deeper into the text to mine those nuggets of spiritual gold. And so I definitely enjoyed this parasha, and I hope you did as well. All right. So blessings and Lila Tov to everyone. Those of you who are tuning in on YouTube, blessings to you and your family too.
Blessings.
Blessings. Blessings.
All right, good night.
Blessings, everyone.